So, Degol, here we are again. A year later, another event, another city, another country, another era almost, given how fast things are changing. So, my first question to you is what are some of the key infrastructure requirements for business continuity and resilience? It's now 2 years past the pandemic, but still there is so much, as we heard, uncertainty in the world. How does infrastructure help?
Thank you very much. Good morning again. Actually, I'm a bit unlucky because I'm around the lunchtime, so bear with us on that. The key thing for business is, like normally strong business requires stronger technology. So a business becomes strong when it's backed by stronger infrastructure and technology. So a strong business requires that those businesses to have their mission critical equipment be hosted in an optimal infrastructure. So an optimal infrastructure requires that, the system should be agile because it has to be resistant to change. As you rightly said, we have been into the pandemic. There are so many interruptions that are coming in. So there must be a sufficient and agile environment where businesses have their core systems and equipment is residing. So the other is, redundancy in terms of, power. It could be a power interruption. It could be a connectivity interruption. So all sorts of interruptions should be backed by, with redundant systems and infrastructure. And then you need to have a physical security because one of the ways that a business can have it sustained and resilient to change is by having stronger physical security. So stronger physical security is one important element. And then the other one is, as you grow your business, you should be able to expand your technology and your infrastructure. So scalability becomes a factor in this. So that businesses need to be scalable infrastructure. And the other one is, you need to have stronger connectivity and stronger remote access to your data and to your equipment. So with all these things being said, that's a very optimal infrastructure is something that fulfills all these things. So we, for example, at Raxio, we are addressing these main concerns in a way that businesses have sustainable and resilient to changing environment by having, optimal infrastructure.
Great. Thanks, Degol, for setting the context so well. We heard a number of speakers just before this talking about how so much infrastructure is being built in countries across Africa. So big question which arises is how do you optimize investments in this infrastructure? So Degol, what are some of your thoughts on how can government policy help companies maximize their infrastructure investments?
Yeah, I think the support of government in maximizing infrastructure investment is critical. So one way that can be done is the first is government has to incentivize such projects. So one of the ways that could be incentivized is by preparing, a very good platform or ecosystem like what we have in ICT Park. And then also the government will be able to give, duty-free privilege for critical infrastructure equipment. One of the reasons that we were able to build such, robust infrastructure is because the investment would have been difficult had not there been, duty-free privilege. So one of those is there. The other one is regulatory environment. So we need to establish stronger regulatory framework. There is an upcoming context, like the PDP law has recently been ratified. The data residency framework has to be there. Businesses and critical business infrastructure like financial institutions should be required to have redundant infrastructure to give services to the public. So the other one is also the government should give confidence that businesses start to rely. As we go digital, we are becoming vulnerable to the global world. So cybersecurity is one area that the government should be focusing on and working on hard because businesses need to be protected. So the private sector can only provide on physical security, but cyber security is something that the government can work
for more than 3 hours.
The other one is to enhance PPP. There should be stronger public-private partnership So the private partners, and background would
The
be able to
installation
support the
process
government
begins.
in terms of harnessing the potential in the skills that are available globally across all the board by partnering with private and public partnerships. So the thing is the digital skills. And as we grow up, as my former speaker has said that, we have a younger population, we need to work on developing the digital skills. Jobs, critical equipment should be imported into the country duty-free, because that's how how the young population becomes efficient and develop the skill in the digital arena.
Great, thanks. You brought up a very important point right there, public-private partnerships. And that's been one of the key themes of all our summits across the last 20 years. No single sector can take on the entire challenge of building, maintaining, and upgrading digital infrastructure. So, Degol, in your opinion, what are some of the success factors for a good public-private partnership? Not all governments and companies seem to get it right, but what are some of your recommendations?
Yeah, there is a changing tendency towards that, which is encouraging. Extension in this event itself is one area that it's what the public area is showing commitment for a public-private partnership. So, the most important thing for PPPs to develop is building trust. There should be trust has to be built on both sides, where the private system should have to start to believe in public support, and then public sector has to start to believe in private infrastructure and skills that are existing in the private infrastructure. So the other success factor that could for PPPs to grow is creating a shared vision or an alignment in terms of strategy. The country has introduced a digital strategy for 2025. So companies like ours are trying to align ourselves to the country's vision. So when we have shared vision and alignment in terms of strategy, there is high probability that PPPs will get stronger. So the other factor is the risk management mechanism. Like whenever risk happens with digital and with every business, risks happen. So there should be a clear definition of what will happen when a risk happens from both perspectives, whether it's in private or public environment, because that has to be laid down in a transparent, clear way, so which gives confidence and trust for the PPP to develop in this country.
Thanks. Another very important issue that our events address is digital inclusion. We're all a very privileged lot sitting here in a five-star hotel with smartphones and internet, but it's a very different world out there in other parts of the city or other parts of the countries across continents. So what are some of your thoughts on how can digital inclusion be enhanced with the good data infrastructure?
Like all the speakers have been saying that, like one of the reasons that we can enhance digital or accelerate digital activity is by increasing the infrastructure. So one of those core infrastructures, not all, but one of those equations, one of the variable in that equation is data centers. As you know, data centers are home of internet, so with data centers being expanding, and we are home of internet, we will attract more network operators to join together. And with more network operators, like for example, in our data center, both Ethio Telecom is there, Safaricom is there, the ISP providers are there, so we are home of connectivity and home of internet. So with that comes, like the requirement and the attraction for ISPs and content delivery networks to get attracted to Ethiopia, like with the changes that's coming with the laws, with data residency and others, these content delivery networks and global companies need to be attracted to this country. So with the development of those infrastructure, the cost of delivering those contents becomes lesser. So with less cost and efficiency comes that these content providers will get attracted to this country. So with the development of the mobile network, as has been said, so the more we have more access to the digital, and the fact that we have a younger population, and the fact that we are expanding on data centers, which are also home of internet. So with the expansion of the network providers and the content delivery networks, global hyperscalers getting attraction to Ethiopia, will expand the data inclusion in the country. So we are seeing that, like if you go out and come back to Ethiopia in a few years, you'll see every change coming instantly. So that is part of the movement in digital inclusion.
Thanks, Degol. You're right. It's not just a question of access to the device, but good high quality services on that device, on that network, bang on target. Let's turn to another topic, which is probably a favorite one for people in this audience, which is what are some emerging technologies to keep an eye on? So we heard a lot about in the previous speakers talking about 6G and biometrics and so on. We heard about AI, ML. I'm sure everyone's either very scared or very optimistic about Chat GPT and all the other variations of Gen AI. In your opinion, what are some emerging technologies to keep an eye on?
I think one of the emerging technologies that we need to keep eye on is AI and ML. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is the next phase that's going to come. So we need to be prepared in terms of accommodating those AI and ML. So I believe that Ethiopia, the country, we have a very good advantage of maximizing on that context. Because AI and ML requires a lot of compute. So with a lot of compute requires, there is more power. So as Ethiopia is one of the cheapest power producer, we have the most green energy. So that requires, if it is backed by, an optimal infrastructure where that bigger AI and ML is going to be run, is going to be, that's what makes us ready for that. So those infrastructure, like the data centers or the network infrastructure that we do should accommodate in terms of design and also implementation to accommodate for that high compute, high power intensive or power hungry equipment that could be residing here. So that's the next thing that we should be ready for. I think we are getting there in terms of preparation. We have, for example, the highest power capacity racks that could accommodate for that future to come. So one single rack can accommodate as high as 21 kilowatt power in density. So high density power hungry equipment are being, going to be placed here. And infrastructurally, the country is in that move. And that's the next step, I believe.
Fantastic. I'm glad you brought up the issue of energy. We've got a couple of sessions tomorrow also talking about energy and private networks and so on.
Yes.
My last question for you before we open up to the audience, you can get ready with your questions now. My last question for you is, what are your tips to the audience on how should they choose a good infrastructure provider for the different kinds of data needs?
Yeah. I believe, for businesses, I think there are two fundamental things that, if not the only, but fundamental things. One is providing efficient and quality services to their customers is pillar number one. Whatever business you are in, you need to make sure that you are able to provide quality services
a dream,
to your customers.
but a reality.
And the second,
For generations.
increasing the value of your shareholders. So return on investment is the next point. So if we look at the digital infrastructure support from that side, one thing you can see is, for example, if we take financial service industry, service delivery is critical. And then if you want to give customers your, important and unreliable services with uninterrupted platform, you need to have stronger infrastructure because service interruption today comes at a cost. It's not just it's going to cost you money in terms of lost transactions, it's also cost you huge money in terms of reputation. So if we today calculate the amount of money that businesses lose because of interrupted transactions and also reputational risk, it's going to be a huge sum of money. So they need to know where to partner. They need to partner where they get the optimal solution for their businesses. Uninterrupted services, with a reliable network and reliable security. That's number one. And the second is to maximize their return on investment. These days you see everyone is building their own on-premises data centers. So that requires a huge sum of money, both in terms of foreign exchange, also in terms of investment. So with the existing and maximizing, robust infrastructure like ours, they should, start to engage and check the total cost of ownership, because that investment is going to cost a lot of money. So it might not be scalable. It might be fit to your need, but it's not going to invest your next. So providers, infrastructure providers like ours, are meant to solve those things. Our total cost of ownership in terms of investment should be easier. Your time to market, rather than building huge infrastructure, you have the right to plug in your equipment and run your business immediately. So the amount of investment you have to put into infrastructure could alternately be used by the local, and you could divert your business into expanding your core businesses. So it should be seen from two pillars. One is providing best services, and then also from a return on investment point of view.
Great, thanks, Degol. That's a very good, useful checklist for our audience on how to choose a good infrastructure provider. I think we can take a couple of questions from the audience. Any questions, comments, feedback, suggestions? Please feel free to raise your hand and tell us who you are, and the mic will come to you. And I can see, yeah, there's a hand up there. Can we get a mic to our friend over there? In the middle, please stand up, and so we can come bring the mic to you. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Michael. We work on a Gen AI strategy and implementation. We're based in Addis Ababa. Our company is called Andalim PLC. I heard you mention that the data center strategy in Ethiopia is well suited in terms of having big GPUs and doing training of generative AI components. So I would like to ask you, what's the status of the data center here in Ethiopia, and what can we do to shift the data center strategy that you have and really try to implement those big data centers for inference and for training?
Great question. Gen AI and how data centers can help.
I think that is the whole idea of the messaging. We wanted to invite companies like yours to come and visit the existing infrastructure that we are building. So the ICT park, I could say, is a very good ecosystem. It's developing by the day to accommodate to new changes. So one of the things is high-powered, high-capacity, power-hungry equipment should be hosted. So if you have to do that, all the investment by yourself is going to caught up. Your capital is going to be caught up into a return on investment, which is very slower. So we are there to provide that solution for you. We have built, a Tier 3 certified, facility certified data center that can accommodate up to 21 kilowatt of power per rack. So whatever type of equipment you have, we can accommodate up to 54 rack capacity within one rack. So whatever requests you have in terms of whether it's scalability, you can start from a small quarter rack, but we can provide high power, high density racks. So there is all sort of flexibility in that. It could start from a small low density rack up to high power, high density racks up to 21 kilowatts. So if you tell us your critical requirements, we have an invitation there. You can take a tour, and then we can discuss all detailed requirements, and then we can provide a solution for you.
Thanks, Degol. Your team is right out there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so feel free to contact the team for more questions. If there's no other questions, we can move on. Question? Yeah, okay. Can we give a mic to that familiar person there? Yeah.
Hello. We see that there are hyperscale data centers across the continent. We see that there are national data centers, as Raxio do. We now see that as we move to 5G and faster and higher speed connectivity requirements for AI, for IoT, for other things, do you think that it's Raxio's role to look at edge data centers? Do you think it's somebody else's responsibility to do that? Do you have any plans for doing that in Ethiopia?
Great question. Edge computing, edge data. Edge computing, edge data.
Yeah. One of the basic strategies for Raxio is, Raxio, just to give you a small perspective, Raxio is a Pan-African data center company. We are operating in 7 African countries already. So we have been up and running in Uganda for the last 2 years, and now our Ethiopian data center is up and running now since last November. So at Raxio, the main idea is to build a globally competitive data center all across Africa, which is future-proof. With the changes in technology, we should be ready, and we should make Africa ready for the changes that are going to come. So Raxio takes that responsibility as a primary responsibility, and that's how we are doing that from that perspective. So when we build data centers, from a design point of view, all our long up to implementation and substituting our vendors, our suppliers, and our consultants, we make sure that we are building a data center that is robust enough and competitive enough that could be suitable for hyperscalers. For example, our DRC data center is currently before it's operational, being contracted out to one of the hyperscalers. So in a way, Raxio takes this as its primary responsibility, enabling and getting Africa ready for the future in terms of building those infrastructure which are ready for the future.
Fantastic. Thanks. Big round of applause to Degol for a very nice, insightful fireside chat. I can see a few hands up, but you can catch him in the lunch break, and his whole team is out there. Thanks so much, Degol. Thank you once again. That brings us to the end of this fireside chat.